Is the iPhone 15 Pro Max really that much better than the 14 Pro Max? Well, in this video, I'm gonna skip the specs and talk about my real-world experience, every single difference that I notice day to day, including multiple issues, some that others have not talked about. Now, I wanna start out with comfort because people made it a huge deal that this phone is lighter, being made out of titanium, and about the curved edges. And when I first took it out of the box, I definitely noticed the curved edges on the front and back, and how it digs into your hand less, it feels better. And I noticed that it was lighter, but it wasn't as big as I expected. But over this last week, switching back and forth between the two phones, that is where you really notice it. You notice those edges and you notice the extra weight. Now, this is something that I've wanted for a while. I thought the 14 Pro Max, it was just way too heavy compared to the Androids that use aluminum. And even though the titanium does feel cheaper than the stainless steel, not as premium, I say that this design makes the Max size more comfortable to use, and it actually is slightly smaller in terms of dimensions. I also like that my natural color titanium doesn't show fingerprints as much, so overall that has been a nice improvement. And the next thing are the speakers. Apple usually doesn't talk about these, but every year we have a small improvement. This year though, the difference is huge, way better than I expected. Not only is it louder, but you have better bass, you have crisper highs, and that is just an improvement year to year. I've noticed myself now using it at half volume, even sometimes a little bit less, where a few years ago, say with the iPhone 12s, I would be having it turned up all the way. So that is really nice if you like to listen to music or watch videos on your phone. Now, one thing that sucks this year is that Apple is no longer making their leather cases, but I've been buying and recommending Moth products for years, and this year they have upgraded to Moth vegan leather, which has a durable and amazing texture. Their power bank has some very unique features. First off, it uses USB-C, and the port is on the side, which means you can plug it in while using the stand both vertically and horizontally, which others can't do. And it charges both the battery and your phone, so it's perfect for the new standby mode. It's designed for ultimate modularity, so I could take my phone off and I can charge my AirPods while still using the stand, which is also my favorite MagSafe wallet ever, which holds 3 cards. So when you're ready to leave your house, you can choose if you want to just use the snap-on standard wallet, or for extra power, you can add the slim MagSafe battery, and all 3 work together. So there's no need for bulky chargers or cables. The prices are also great for all of these modular accessories, so check out our partner Moth's Moth products using the links down below. And the next one is real-world battery life. Now, I was worried about this because this is the first year that Apple has not increased the battery life on paper, while at the same time going over 3 nanometer, which should have helped a lot. So that was really weird. Now, the 14 series, it kind of sucked, and I actually had to upgrade to a Max phone just because of battery life, even though I wanted to stick with the smaller regular 14 Pro. Now, yesterday, when this phone hit 20%, I noticed it because it was basically 11 p.m. after a full day of me using it much more than usual, including 20 minutes of maxing out the phone with a gaming throttling test, which by itself killed 10% of the battery. And using it this whole week, the battery life is absolutely better than the 14 Pro Max, even though Apple did not mention it. Now, Mr. Who's the Boss did an excellent test where he got almost an hour more of battery life than the 14 Pro Max, which was worse than the 13 Pro Max. And in his test, he has gaming and other things. So I think that if you're somebody who doesn't play games, you're lighter on your phone, the difference will be even greater. And I'm just so happy that the battery life in the real world has improved. And I think that if I want to, I could actually go back to using the regular Pro phone. Now, another thing Apple didn't talk about was the connectivity speeds, in particular for cellular data. Now, the A17 Pro has the new X70 5G chip from Snapdragon, and that is designed to have better real-world performance and reception, and also focus on efficiency for less battery usage and heat. Now, when I tested out inside of this concrete building, I got 394 megabit per second compared to 247. That is a massive improvement in real-world speeds. And then testing it outside, I had 440 compared to 376. Now, the upload was just slightly slower, but I would absolutely take this. And this is me using T-Mobile with the mid-band 5G, not super fast 5G, so I could be maxing out that connection anyway. And it is nice to see that you're gonna have faster speeds and better reception in the real world, which makes a big difference. Now, one issue that I found, unfortunately, is that the Wi-Fi speeds seem to be worse. And this is the first time that I can remember where Wi-Fi got worse year over year. Now, the new iPhone 15 Pros, they support Wi-Fi 6E, but this was connected to regular Wi-Fi 6. And in my basement, I got 51 megabit per second compared to 81. And then the upload was 3 instead of 6. And then in my backyard, I got 33 megabit per second compared to 45 with an upload of 5 versus 7. This is really, really weird. And I noticed this just because in my basement, I was looking at both phones and my 15 Pro Max actually switched over to 5G from Wi-Fi automatically, and it was just really weird. Now, this could be a good thing if you have a poor Wi-Fi signal. It actually switches really quickly instead of staying on that poor signal, but I don't think it should be getting worse. I don't know if it's because of the titanium or if it's trying to be more efficient. I have no idea, but if you guys know, let me know below. And now I want to mention the new action button. I absolutely love the capabilities that it could do, especially that you can customize shortcuts. I've set it to the camera app to quickly be able to take a photo or video, but in this first week, I have to be honest and say that I have not been using it that much. I need to train myself to make new habits to use it instead of just going back to my default. So maybe I will report on that in the future, but it's definitely a nice change for me. And now I want to talk about the cameras because when I watched their event, honestly, I was a little bit underwhelmed. Now I want to start out with the new 5X camera on the Pro Max because that is an exclusive. And thankfully, this thing has impressed me way more than I expected. Now, usually with telephoto zoom lenses, the quality actually goes down if you look at Android phones compared to say a 3X lens. And that is because on Androids, the sensor size got smaller, you had less light hitting the actual sensor, so you can zoom in more and the quality is better when you do that, but in a lot of cases, it could be worse, especially in low light. Now, with this 5X, I was honestly way more impressed than I thought I would be. I was very skeptical, but even comparing 5X versus 3X, it is better in every way. You get less motion blur, the quality of the photo looks better, and the portraits look absolutely amazing with that 120mm equivalent. I thought it would be too much zoom for portraits, but Apple makes it look great, and this is something that I'll be using very often. And if you look at Android phones, I think most of them don't allow you to take shots with that periscope or super zoom lens. With that, Smart HDR5 looks much more natural. HDR for the faces doesn't look as flat as before, and in general, the way that it handles highlights and shadows on the face and on clothing looks so much better than before and compared to Android phones. It looks much more like a DSLR. So I think the processing is really nice. Now with that, the selfie camera is still 12 megapixels, but the images look sharper, the HDR is better, it looks more natural, and that is just thanks to Smart HDR5 paired with the new image signal processor in this phone. Now, one concern that I had is the quality of 3X photos because you don't have that lens there anymore, so if you have to zoom in to around that range, it is just a digital crop instead of an actual lens being there. And in good lighting, you guys could see the quality is definitely worse, but I was shocked that in lower light situations, the crop actually looked better, and that is just crazy. Now, the lens that is in the 14 Pro Max and now in the 15 Pro, this whole setup is about 3 years old or more. So it's an older sensor, whereas with the new 5X, it is a brand new one, and the 48 megapixels a new sensor. So I think that is why. And now that I've used this for a week, I think I'm not gonna be zooming to 3X very often. Usually it'll be 1X or 2X, and then switching to 5 if I need it. But overall, I'm really, really happy with the new 5X lens, and Apple did a great job even though I would like to see an actual one that can zoom from 3 to say 6x or maybe 10x, this has been nice. Now with that, we have a 48 megapixel max mode, which gives you a compressed high-res file. I'm so glad Apple fixed that. I really complained about having to shoot ProRAW and convert with the previous phone. Now they gave the 14 Pro Max that feature as well, which is amazing. But what they didn't give them is the ability to shoot 24 megapixel photos. And when we compare the quality between 12 and 24, well, it is definitely much nicer. And you can now use this for live photos and for portrait shots, and that is really nice. Now they also added the ability to make a regular shot into a portrait shot, and to be honest, I haven't really been doing it. I'm so used to putting portrait mode on that this is something that I'm gonna have to work on to be able to just take regular photos and be able to change them later. So overall, even though I was a little bit underwhelmed at the event using these in the real world, I mean, the difference is very noticeable, and I wanna do a comparison between multiple generations. Let me know if you guys want to see that. Now, the next thing I need to talk about is the new USB Type-C port. I am so glad it is there. A few times I actually was trying to find a lightning cable because I usually use MagSafe. I'm like, wait, I don't need to find one. I can use USB Type-C, and that is great. Of course, we have the faster transfer speeds, but I don't use that often. But I will have to say that I'm so glad that Apple did not limit this port. You can use any cables. You can connect it to your monitor or a projector like Vadim did. You can connect hubs to it. Any SSDs or SD cards work. And of course, you can record ProRes, which I haven't done yet. So external media, that is awesome. Now, as far as charging speeds, Apple did not increase the max wattage. It is still 27 watts like last year, but Apple seems to be doing some things differently. The 15 Pro Max seems to hit 60% after about 30 minutes, which is higher than before. And after 1 hour, it's at 85%. Which is better. So even though the wattage hasn't went up, they're actually allowing it to stay higher or faster charging for longer. Now to charge to 100% takes 1 hour 25 minutes if your screen is off and nothing else is happening, compared to 1 hour and 45 minutes. So that is an improvement. And I love that they're now showing cycles in the battery health section, and they're allowing you to limit to 80% charge, which I've been asking for a long time, because this significantly improves long-term battery health. We have had issues with the iPhone 14 series, and that's basically what you get with electric cars. They suggest charging to about 80% as a daily limit, and then 100% for longer trips. So that is nice. And now I have to get into the whole overheating gate or overheating issues. And I want to start out by saying that yes, I have noticed even before this went mainstream that this phone, the 15 Pro Max, does get hotter in the hand when it is charging. And then looking at charging speeds, that also makes a bit of sense. Now, what most of you guys may not know is with the A17 Pro, if you're maxing out the chip, it actually peaks at 14 watts compared to 10 to 11 in the past. So it does put out more heat. And I did a 20-minute stress test, and the 15 Pro Max actually throttled faster, and the screen dimmed first. And then with that, once it cooled off, the screen took longer to get back to regular brightness. It took about 2 minutes instead of 1. Now, of course, we have the new titanium. Apple showed off how they bonded the titanium to the aluminum, and titanium is not as good of a conductor as far as heat compared to aluminum or stainless steel like on the old phone. Now, if you look at the 20-minute test, during the beginning, the performance is actually 25% better, or even a little bit more at the start. But by the end of the first run, the overall difference was just 13%, not 20 like they advertised. So yes, throttling is affecting it, and it throttled quicker than the 14 Pro Max. Now, if we compare the lowest scores for both, which was run 18, the 15 Pro Max was 18% faster, so close to that 20% speed. So once both of these throttle, which they do, the performance is still increased on this new phone, so it's not a huge deal. Now, you do feel the phone get hot. That is absolutely the case. And looking at the thermal footage, I think we know why eye. You see the heat, you actually see the chip there, the outline of it, compared to the 14 Pro Max where the heat is much more spread out. And I think Apple definitely needs to put in a cooling system, maybe vapor chamber or other things like Androids have been doing for years. I don't know why they are not doing that. But I have to say that in the real world, for my normal usage, almost always I'm not having any issues of this phone getting too hot. We have the new efficiency cores that are much improved, so they are being used more often with basic tasks, and the 5G chip is also more efficient, so this is not something that I would really worry about. And to be completely honest, when Apple announced this phone, and in my first video, I said that this was one of the most underwhelming updates in many years. The regular 15 seemed good, but these ones not so good. But after using it for a week, I'm actually much more pleasantly surprised than I was at the event. It is not a massive update, but there's a lot of small things that have been improved. You guys let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Click that circle above to subscribe because we have a lot of other great videos coming out. Check out one of those right over there. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next one.